Welcome, folks, to IlliniGuys Halftime Live. Mike Kegley, Kedrick Prince. We may have more people on. You just don't know when you're at halftime in a bowl game. A lot of our guys are either there in the booth, like Brad and Matt, or they're there in the crowd, like Steve Sturm and others. So you don't know. But I will tell you, Ked, if there was a drinking game today, and you had to take a drink every time they mentioned that Tennessee had somebody opting out of the bowl for whatever reason, or somebody wasn't there, you would be one drunk Kedrick Prince. I will tell you that, because every time something happened, we got to hear about so-and-so isn't in the game right now. And I'm like, oh, come on, guys. I mean, obviously ESPN does not want their SEC teams to look bad.
Mike, they don't. And this is what's bad about first of all, it's a good thing that the Big Ten has the TV rights, the deals that they have. I love it. I think it's great. I'm here for all of it. But when they play on ESPN, even in basketball, when Illinois played Tennessee the other day in basketball, it doesn't matter. You're going to get that. For example, the play out of bounds, I don't know who the receiver was. Maybe it was Colin Dixon. They picked the receiver up and threw him on the ground. Oh, maybe it's not so bad. You can't do it. You really can't. And I'm going to tell you, they called the first one. They picked up the receiver. Then the second one, I think it was Khalil Valentine. He was upset that they didn't call it. You're not going to – and then they want to question these things. I totally understand. I get it. But I really wish if they're going to put these games on these networks, you got to put some on FS1 or either – I know they're hired by ESPN, but gee, many Christmas, it was never so bad before like it is now. It's blatantly obvious, that you have to listen to this because I get it. They want to root for the SEC teams. I understand it. But, man, it's a bad look on their part.
Yeah, I totally agree. As I look at these things now, let's go down some of the stats, because I think what you are seeing tonight is a result of the Big Ten. I think at the top of the Big Ten can compete with the SEC. I think in the middle has been where the SEC's had the advantage, a little more depth of their teams as you go down. But I think in the last 3 or 4 years, you're seeing the Big Ten's middle get better, while the SEC middle has either stayed the same or maybe dropped off a tad. But let's look at these stats here. Illinois is up in total yards, 204 to 127. So that is really nice for the Illini. Passing yards, Illini up 133 to 53. And then rushing yards, Tennessee does have an advantage, 74 to 71. Penalties, 3 for 42 for Tennessee, 4 for 20 for Illinois. I got to be honest with you. The fact that all of them are offensive line movement penalties actually blows my mind. First downs, Illinois is up 14 to 8. Third down, Illinois is 3 for 6, and 3 for 5 is what you have with Tennessee. Key stat here, fourth down, Illinois is 0 for 2. Ked, we'll talk about that in a minute. Illinois is up 10, 37 to 27 in plays, up on average yards per play, 5.5 yards to 4.7. Average yards per completion, again, Illinois advantage, 10.2 to 8.8. Yards per rush, 4.4 for Illinois, 4.1 for Tennessee. Red zone, Tennessee's 1 for 2, Illinois 2 for 2. Time of possession, 18-16 for Illinois, 11:44 for Tennessee. No turnovers, no fumbles. Tennessee has 1 sack for 4 yards. Illinois, minus Gabe Akers, 2 sacks for minus 14. And tackles for loss, Tennessee 2 for 5 yards. Illinois 4 for 17 yards. Got to give kudos to Aaron Henry. The defense has looked really good today. And I guess I should say, because we've been going for 4 minutes, the SEC has players who aren't playing. No other conference has that problem, but the SEC does. So I will tell you that it is crazy a little bit how this is going. Ked, your thoughts on this first half and what we saw with Illinois up in the most important statistic, 10-7, but not up enough to feel real good.
No, it's not enough to feel good, and it's a low-scoring output. I'm kind of surprised, and I have to give Aaron Henry credit. I mean, everybody, not everybody, a lot of people have been so critical of him. This is a high-powered scoring offense from Tennessee, and to only allow them 7 points, and like you mentioned, Mike, we're gonna be reminded, probably another 119 times in the third quarter alone about Tennessee missing players. But in the grand scheme of things, if you look at the big picture, let's look where Illinois is. They're 8-4, and 5 years ago, do you really think Illinois would have been in a ball game with Tennessee? The score would probably be 47 or 43, if anything. This tells you where the program is and where they're going and what they're trying to build. And Mike, you hit it on the head too. The Big Ten is closing the gap. I mean, I've told a lot of my friends, and I think it always goes in cycles. Earlier before the year 2000, the Big Ten in basketball was really dominant in basketball. And then the SEC has been really dominant in football. Well, the last champions, Ohio State and Michigan, I believe. So it goes in cycles, and you can see that changing right now in football. You really and truly can, and you can see it in basketball. The Big Ten has really dominant teams in basketball. I just know ESPN doesn't like it. I know it's a culture shock to them. The NIL money, the market money that the Midwest has, as far as what's available to them, it's been tremendous.
Yeah, and before we get the word from Matt Stevens here, one of the things is this Tennessee offense, don't underestimate them. Illinois is doing a great job. That doesn't mean that the rubber band ain't going to break, because this is a team that basically their lowest scoring output this year was 20 points, held to that by Alabama, and 24 points by Vanderbilt. And then the rest of the way, this team was generally in the 30s and 40s. So you're looking at an offense that can score, and Illinois' defense is playing quite a bit. And we will talk in a second about fourth downs. But Matt, what are your thoughts there as you're watching this game up in the press box?
I thought it was a really good first half from Aaron Henry's defense after the first drive. You give up 67 total yards or 60 yards after the 67-yard touchdown drive. It's very Ryan Walters-esque, where I saw him give points on the first drive and then get everybody together and make an adjustment on what was going on and who needed to be out on the field. And then you saw Illinois get off the field on third down. So really, really good adjustment there. I think they've done a really, really good job interiorly in their interior defensive line of putting pressure on Joey Aguilar and making him get rid of the ball a little bit faster. This Tennessee offense is kind of predicated on long, routes. I mean, it's 15, 18, 20-yard routes, long verts, and you need time in the pocket to sit there. And guys like James Thompson's had a hell of a first half. It's the best first half I've seen him play in an Illinois jersey. And then I thought what they've done on the outside to replace Gabe Yakus with the outside linebackers that they've put out there has been really, really good, whether it's been Daniel Brown or Joe Barna or people like that. I thought it's been really, really good. And I think offensively they've done everything except score enough points to feel comfortable, because I was glad at the end of the half to realize Santa Claus, David Alano, does exist, and they tend to lead.
Well, I tell you one thing, Matt.
I feel like they're running the ball. They're doing everything they need to do to control. Tennessee had the ball 11 minutes in a 30-minute first half. So everything they need to do is a game that Illinois can win, and a style that Illinois can win. And I give the guys a lot of credit for the bowl prep that they've done, because they put together something that they can win this football game.
One thing I'd like to get the feedback of you guys. Ken, you go first, Matt, next. And Matt, you probably haven't heard this, but on the broadcast, they said that Aaron Henry said that Tennessee's offense is predictable when you take a look at what the tight end does and where they line up. I'm not certain, again, I got to be honest with you. I have not done a deep dive in Tennessee's offense to say that I detect anything, but man, there's quite a spread there of Tennessee, certainly, or Illinois, certainly looking like they were in sync with the offense, and maybe it's the tight ends. I don't know. Ked, what did you think when you heard that comment?
Real quick, I'll tell you this. Obviously, they've done their homework and they've studied. And if there's all the coaches, like Matt said, they've done a tremendous job of preparing for this game. But Aaron Henry has done an amazing job, because if anything that you see with offense and defenses, if you pick up tendencies, he's obviously picked it up. And what I think they're doing a really good job of, they're not getting beat down the field long. They've taken that away from them. Yes, they're running the ball a little bit and they're giving up dinks and donks, whatever you want to say. But for that part, from that standpoint, he has done a masterful job in the first half, because there's still another half to go, 30 minutes of football left, of taking that away from them. So it could be something that they've seen. There's been things that Illinois has done. There's tendencies, which is why typically in bowl prep, you want to change some of those things up a little bit, I guess. But that's what I've noticed.
Matt?
Yeah, just to kind of echo what Ked said, I think that this Tennessee offense is really predicated on four verts, essentially, or three or four verts. Illinois has done everything they can all year, and you've heard it all year from Aaron Henry and Brett Bielema. You've got to keep the football in front of us, and they've really done that. I don't know how predictable it is. I think that comment's being made because I think a lot of what Tennessee does that makes them very, very effective is how fast they go. Well, that requires you to get a really, really quick first down. And you saw on every drive after the first one, they weren't really doing that. They weren't getting that quick first down. They weren't getting that tempo. And then that challenges you to get lined up correctly. That challenges you to play, with some tired legs in your defense. And then they hit you over the top with their verts. You haven't seen that because Illinois' DBs, if you've seen them, just aren't letting them get to their verts. And so they've had to do a lot of crossing routes. They've had to do a lot of things that are not typically in Tennessee's offense. And you've seen Joey Aguilar kind of dance a little bit in the pocket, because usually somebody's either going to be wide open and the ball's already out because they're throwing a deep ball. So they've really had to adjust to what Illinois is doing, which is, okay, Tennessee, you want to do the spit on the sidelines thing with your wide receivers, and you want to basically make take our guys in the middle of the field have to run this way. Okay, well, until you throw it down the middle, we're just going to leave the middle of the field wide open. And Tennessee hasn't really adjusted to that yet. I'll be interested to see in the second half what they do. I'll also be interested to see in the second half if Illinois can continue to run the ball the way they have. They're getting 4 yards a carry. Aiden Lawfrey's running hard, and they're doing a lot of things in the run game that I think are really kind of interesting. I do think the offensive line is physically more dominant than Tennessee's defensive line. I felt that coming into the game, and if they can get rid of these procedural penalties that kind of that are there was 4 in one drive and they still got a touchdown. But if they get rid of those, I think the offensive line is dominating Tennessee up front. And so I do think that. And then Mike, you can appreciate this because this was a little bit before my time on the beat, but Illinois fans that watched a Tim Banks defense, he's not here today, but like Tim Banks defense and some of the mental errors and penalties that happened in a Tim Banks Illini defense, guess what, are happening in a Tim Banks Volunteer defense. So you're seeing those things, you're seeing those little things that Illinois does really, really well in order to beat these types of teams. And, I'm a little bit nervous about going into another offseason where Aaron Henry defense has another great performance in a bowl game against a Southeastern Conference opponent, and we have to hear about how crappy he is by every Illinois fan that wants a new defensive coordinator. And I personally, as the IlliniGuys football reporter, I don't want to hear it. So if he puts this kind of performance together for another 2 quarters, I really don't want to hear it. And guess what? The head football coach who makes $8 million a year doesn't want to hear it either. So I think it's been a great performance by Brett Bielema and Aaron Henry for the 2 weeks of bowl prep. You can see it on the field with the guys they're using and how they're using them to kind of take away what, at least for 30 minutes, what Tennessee wants to do.
Right. Matt, on top of that, the bowl game has been impressive, but you've noticed changes in Illinois' last few games defensively. I know they were playing in snow and blizzard when they played Northwestern.
I noticed a change because the conditions were bad. So I had somebody ask me the other day, like, "Hey, Luke Altmaier didn't seem to have a whole lot of passing yards in that game against Northwestern." And I was like, "Yeah, there was 8 inches of snow on the ground when the game started." So, I do think that the conditions of the Northwestern game. Ked, you're gonna ask me, are they making significant changes? No, not really. I mean, they're still kind of playing the same defense. I mean, I know, Kedrick, you hate that answer from me, but these are 18 to 21-year-olds, and you can't make Belichickian type Patriots, NFL type, like changes from week to week. You have what you have. I think the one thing, take the touchdown drive, for instance, the Tennessee touchdown drive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That what was it, 20-yard run that Tennessee had, right?
Correct.
Who was in that gap? Sabir Kareem.
Cream, yeah.
That was not Matthew Bailey, and he whiffed. Okay,
Yeah.
and I think that's what you're starting to see when like Xavier Scott goes down, and you have to play without him the whole year.
What
Okay,
it
we have
looks
to
like.
put somebody in Xavier's spot, and that's not going to be as good, and we can't change our scheme. So this is what we have. Like, and so, I do think that like Sabor and Mac Rusetic have played really, really well after the first drive. But you're seeing what the coaches are talking about, where we can't really make on the fly wholesale adjustments to what we do. We just have to get our guys developed as much as we can to have them play. And I think you're seeing guys like, Juice Clark come back and do a lot of one-on-one coverage on the outside, but you're still seeing Illinois play a lot of zone today because they do not want to give up the 40 and 50-yard stuff over the top, and they don't like that. So, I notice I'll get out on this as somebody said we've left 6 points on the board. Well, Tennessee's left 3 points on the board, and they tried a field goal. I know David's pretty automatic, but I do think the shovel pass to me that's bowl games. That is, we ran that play for 2 weeks. We repped that play for 2 weeks, and by God, we're going to call it. We're going to call the son of a bitch.
You know what, though? Matt, when I look at that one, I'm going to tip my cap off to the Tennessee player who clearly read for whatever he got out of scouting report. He got that because he was holding two guys back, kind of looking with the other hand to grab the ball. If I'm a kid, I'm putting that on my highlight film and saying, look, that's just the type of intellectual player that I am. But Ked, you had some thoughts on going forward on fourth down. So I thought we would kind of talk about that because Illinois is 0 for 2 on fourth down. Tennessee is 0 for 0 on fourth down.
Do you guys remember the game? Matt, maybe it was Purdue or Wisconsin, and Brett Bielema's first year or two. The fans were irate because he wouldn't go for it on fourth down, and now he's going for it on fourth downs. I'm okay with doing it. I know a lot of people wouldn't have done it. It was just the play calling for me at the time, and if it would have worked, it looks great. And it's easy to say that after the fact. The shovel pass, I don't think it would have went anywhere anyway. I think it was to Caden Fagan. I think he was in the game at the time. It was to him. And the Hank Beatty pass, I mean, there was, the Red Sea was open. But those play calls right now in the first half, to me, it made them look desperate. I was okay with that because it's the first half. And there's not like the score is 21-0 or 21-3. I just didn't like it at that time personally.
I liked the one in the first quarter because it was going, toward the Illinois, toward where the Illinois fans are. I liked the one in the first quarter because of the direction they were going in. And David was better kicking the other way. The one where they ran the shovel pass, I saw David miss a 60-yard, literally a 60-yard, a 60-yard field goal attempt, kicked that way, and he missed it short by like 1.5 yards, 2 yards. Okay, so he's been doing really well at kicking it that way when they ran the shovel pass. I didn't like that one. I liked the one in the first quarter because it's 4th and 8 on the 33. It's a 50-yarder going the direction that David didn't really have a good job in pregame kicking in. So I think they took a chance. I didn't like – and then I think the shovel pass one is just stubborn. Okay, we've got this on the card, and by God, we're going to run it. And so, I didn't love that one. But from a possession standpoint, if you're up 13-7, and I mean, I know it's points, but if you're up 13-7 compared to 10-7, it's still a one-possession game. So I don't hate the idea, but I did question if something was wrong with David, and I turned to somebody at the end of the half, and I said, hey, if they don't kick it here, we know something's wrong. Well, Santa Claus came, and he does exist, and David did kick the field goal, so we know we're good there, and so that's comforting. But I do think as we go back to, I got to get back, but as we get back to the second half, I do think that Illinois is going to wonder if those points are going to be critical later on in the second half. I don't know, but I do think they're moving the ball well enough to make it so that they could take those chances early on in the second half.
And those chances do color how a defensive coordinator calls the rest of the game. And Matt is now not with us. I know that it was a tough signal there. Yes, Uncle Phil Cows. Matt does believe in Santa. We've all made a pact that we don't talk about Santa not being real around Matt, so that we don't cause any problems. That's a big part of the Illini guys, and then we will blank this part of the tape when we send it to him so that he doesn't hear it. So yeah, that was it. Now I will say one thing. The Big Ten is getting better. When you take a look at the coaches, aside from Pat Fitzgerald's issues, you would be looking at probably a guy who has won some Big Ten titles. He's coming into the league. Matt Campbell's the guy that Penn State should have picked first. Kyle Whittingham is a football coaching beast. And even Chesney out west is a guy that has had a marvelous record. He's coming up to a new level. We'll see how good he is. But you saw today who Northwestern hired as their offensive coordinator, didn't you, Ked?
I didn't see that, Mike. And I'll tell you this real quick. The game's about to start. Actually, it's actually started.
Yep. Well, we will be back. We will discuss that at the end of the game, but we will be back. Chip is in the Big Ten. So after all those years being at Oregon and then moving around a little, he's back in the Big Ten and being the offensive coordinator for the Wildcats. So we will get back and see you at the end of the game. Go Illini.